All right, well, welcome to the first ever Apex at Home. Hopefully everyone's been able to join in. And so just to start off, before we get started, some housekeeping items. Where all sessions are going to be recorded. So we know, so that's been a big question going on Twitter of if you miss some of them, that's understandable. They'll all be posted on Ask Tom office hours website after and on YouTube. So we'll tweet that out as well. The other thing is, if you have any Q&A during the talk, there's a Q&A button that you can click in Zoom and then just ask your question. And the moderator, there's going to be a moderator for every session. They'll ask the questions at the end of each session. And the last thing is, and the moderators will talk about this before each session, is we're going to give away 10 hoodies. Bo's got one on right now, just being Vanna White. And there's going to be 10 hoodies. So the more sessions you attend, the better chance you have at winning one. All you have to do is at the end of each talk, you have 20 minutes to go on to Apex at Home. So Apex at and atho.me, and there's a link there to provide feedback. And we're just looking for feedback for the speakers so we can provide that back to them. But just by providing feedback, you're going to be entered in for a chance to win the hoodie. So the more you provide feedback, the more opportunity you have for win hoodies. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joel.
I noticed you didn't introduce yourself, Martin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I'm Martin D'Souza. I'm one of the co-founders of Apex at Home, and Trent Schaefer. Trent, can you wave? Along with Adrian Ping. Where's Adrian? There. So the three of us came up with this one day or night. I don't know which one, and that's how it all started.
Awesome. So welcome, everyone. My name's Joel Coleman, and I work for Oracle, and I lead Oracle Apex at Oracle. I think this whole thing is a bit crazy, but Shakeeb and I think will take credit for this being a bit crazy. So firstly, thanks to Martin, Trent, and Adrian for approaching us with this idea of having an online conference to bring everyone together and try to take place of all of these canceled conferences in the Apex community. And also thanks to Bo English, who's on camera here as well, for all her help in organizing this from the Oracle side. We spent a lot of time and energy in the past, I would say 3 years, trying to help grow the Apex community around the world. We've been in Latin America, we've been in Eastern Europe, most recently we were in the Middle East and Eastern Africa. And so when these guys approached us about an idea of having an online conference, they were thinking small. They were thinking 6 speakers, 8 speakers, 8 hours, and that would be enough. But we thought that isn't really convenient for many people around the globe in different time zones and many of these communities, and we wanted to try and accommodate everyone. And so that's how we ended up with this 24-hour conference with 24 speakers, and everyone has been so gracious with their time in really preparing for this. And so this is really the best of the best. Some of the best speakers in the world are participating in this, and we're really honored that they're giving their time for this. So the last thing I'll say is it's my hope that we make this an annual event, even though Martin just wants to call it Apex at Home because he wants to see how things go. I want to proudly call this Apex at Home 2020 because we'll certainly have this again next year as well. And take it away, Bo.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bo English Bichling. I'm a director on the Oracle Application Express team. I work for Joel, and I'm super excited to be here. Our first speaker is Shakeeb Rahman. He needs no introduction, but he is going to give you a presentation on the transformation of Oracle Apex. Take all yours, Shakeeb.
All right. Thank you, Bo. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Martin. And thanks, everybody, for making this possible. So I'm going to go and share my screen. And I learned this trick from Connor where I can share a portion of my screen. Okay. How's that look? Looks okay? All right.
Perfect.
So this is not the slide I want to show you. I actually want to show you this. So first of all, I'm incredibly honored and humbled to kick off the first ever Apex at Home. It's really an unbelievable situation that we're in currently, right? And it's kind of incredible how we're able to pull together. I think it's really rare to see so much of humanity to go through a singular experience like this. And it really changes everything about the way we live our lives. So I want to thank you for attending this and giving us, a few hours. Don't stay on for every session. If you're watching this, I'm not going to do it. I don't recommend anyone to do it. It's going to be all recorded. But really, I guarantee you that the next 24 hours, you're going to learn something new. You're going to be inspired, and you're going to feel connected with everybody in this Apex community. I think we have an amazing community here, and I'm just so happy that you're here and that you can join us. We're really in it all together. So my name is Shakira Iman, and I'm part of the Apex development team. What I do is that I focus on the design and UI of Apex, but I also work on a lot of different things. And for the last 4 weeks, I've been in lockdown here in Reston. So where is Reston? It's right here. So New York is around here, and Washington, D.C. is right here, and Reston's about a good 30-minute drive from D.C. So here's a zoom-in version, in case you didn't know. So here's Reston. That's my actual location indicator. So if you zoom in enough, you'll see exactly where I am at this moment and where I have been for the last 4 weeks. I wanted to show you a little bit more detail. So I am part of the, so I work at the Oracle Apex Global Headquarters, and I live right around here. So that's a 1 mile commute. And they say that there's a direct correlation between your general level of happiness to how close you live to your workplace. So it turns out I'm generally a pretty happy person, and I'm about a mile away. But it also turns out that I'm the third closest person to the office in Reston at the Global Apex HQ. There's actually Adam and Vlad who are even closer than I am. So these guys must be really happy. Today, I want to talk to you about the transformation of Apex. Now, it's titled this way because it really, over the past few years, I think we've seen a dramatic shift in the way people look at Apex. Now, I'm not going to go into features or specific things that have changed over the years, right? A lot of things have changed. It's a growing product that's going to it's going to add, there's going to be new features, new components, new functionality. It's not really about that. It's about the transformation in perception of Apex. And what that means is that now more than ever before, Apex is getting the attention that it deserves. And I wanted to walk you through some of my experience over the last few weeks at Oracle, which really illustrate that more than anything else. So I think it's safe to say that Apex is now in the big leagues. It's been legitimate for a while, but I think now it's truly a dominant force, right? And this transformation is what I'd like to spend the next 40 minutes on. The first thing I want to talk to you about is this COVID-19 therapeutic learning system that was launched on March 30th, just a short while ago. Now, this is the result of a company-wide effort to develop and deliver something in record time. And the goal of this is to help in this unprecedented crisis that we find ourselves in. The goal of this application is quite simple. It's to collect information in real time from patients on the efficacy of numerous medications that can treat COVID-19. So doctors are already using these treatments right now, and all of that is decentralized. There's no way to tell if patients are getting better or worse on these treatments because they're so, individually treated, right? So the idea is that we can provide some system here that can collect this information and make it available to governments and institutions so that they can make, better decisions about the efficacy of these drugs and how they can, use them. It's not intended to replace clinical trials or anything like that. It's really to solve an immediate need of providing this centralized repository to analyze that information and look at it, in a single place. So That's what this is. And really the key is to solve an immediate need. We didn't have this need just a short while ago. So about 5 days ago, there was an article published on ZDNet about the backstory of this application. If you haven't read it, you can scan this QR code, take a screenshot of this, or just Google ZDNet Oracle Apex, and you'll find this article. Now, no matter how you do the math, I think the story here is that Apex is what made this possible. And I'm not saying that because I'm on the Apex team and we helped build this. I'm saying this because it's really true. If you didn't have a technology like Apex or some other low-code platform, then it's going to be impossible to roll something out in a matter of weeks without, having I don't know. It's really, really difficult to be able to do something like this. So what I wanted to give you is my take. I wanted to give you the backstory on this. So let's go behind the covers and talk about what really happened over those few weeks. And I can tell you right now that it's been an exhausting time, but it's also been an insanely rewarding time. So this is day 0. And this is on March 18th, so almost about a month ago. And I get a text message from Chris Rice asking me to jump on a Zoom at 9:30 p.m. So 9:30 p.m. Wednesday. And earlier in the day, Larry Ellison had spoken with the U.S. president, and he had promised that Oracle would build and deliver and develop a system in 3 days to manage and track this information on the efficacy of these medications used to treat coronavirus. So from 9:30 p.m., when we jumped on this Zoom call with Mike and Joel and Chris and Juan and many others, and Andy Mendelson, we started to discuss the various things that we'd need to solve this problem. And as expected, the requirements were loose. We had a general idea of what we wanted to do, but we're developers. We're not domain experts in this field. We don't know. In fact, I feel so much more informed right now. Like now I know what a clinician is versus a physician. There's all these different things that we had no idea about. But the good thing is that Oracle operates in a lot of different industries. We have these things called global business units, which are really verticals that operate in a specific industry. So we have a healthcare GBU, that operates in that space. And there are scientists and doctors that Oracle employs to, be experts in this domain area. So on this call, we had experts from this GBU that understand everything about this space on the call with us until 2:45 in the morning to help us draft the initial data model. Now, what tool do we use to build that data model? It's QuickSQL, right? And it's funny that it's called QuickSQL because it's actually quite quick. We use it on the phone with a cast of maybe 18, 20 people, and we're able to build this data model live. So this is me sharing my screen, and if you're a hawk-eyed viewer, you'll see that this is apex.oracle.com, right? So we're doing this on the public internet. We went online. I had a workspace, and we started drafting data model because that's where it all begins. If you don't have data, you have nothing. So we started with a data model, and we started to put something together. And you can see in my other tabs, what's an attending physician? I didn't know. What's prophylactic? Now I know these things, but at the time I had no idea, right? So that's day 0. 2:45, we call it a night, and we get back in the morning tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning. Day 1, we have the initial application UI. We have email templates that go out, to look something like this. And this is also the day that we have our first demonstration to the executives. And what I'm showing you here is really the result of the Create Application Wizard, for the most part, with a few different tweaks. We're using slightly different icons. We changed navigation. The idea here is that it really starts from the very basics, right? There's nothing fancy here. Anybody could do this. We have a data model. We use Apex to build an application, and we know that this application is geared towards medical professionals, so that it's got to really work anywhere. We can't expect them to have a laptop in their office. It needs to work on their iPhone, on their tablet, on any device that they might have. So we wanted to optimize for that mobile use case. So from the very beginning, you see, hey, the navigation's at the bottom. We're using this, navigation, menu to do this. So that's day one. We have an initial app. The first demos are provided. Day two, we start building out more of the application functionality, right? And throughout this entire time, there are data model changes. There's more attributes being added, more columns being added, columns that we added that we no longer need to use, or we're either removing them or just marking them as not deprecated, not using them anymore. This time, we started working on the registration flow. So the system is no use if people can't actually go and sign up. So we wanted to make it easy for clinicians to go and sign up. And we started doing this. And the first thing we started with is an email verification. So you provide your name, your email, and we'll send you a verification code that you'll go put in and then verify yourself. And once you're in the system, you can go and begin adding patients, and then you can provide status updates for those patients directly from the UI. Maybe you have an inpatient, or directly from the patient experience, which is what this screen looks like, which is what the actual patient would receive. Now, a little bit more backstory about this application. The idea is that we want to collect information in real time. And the way you do that is by asking the patient themselves. So we send out notifications to these patients that the physicians have enrolled in this system, and they get a text message every day saying, hey, how do you feel? And the questions are fairly straightforward. We ask them, how do you feel since yesterday? Are you feeling worse? Are you feeling the same? Are you feeling better? And what symptoms do you have? And the idea is that this should be as painless as possible, right? If you're going to ask people 20 questions, they're just not going to do it. So we wanted to make this a little bit more engaging and as easy as possible to use. So for the patients, there's no sign-in, there's no login. There's this thing called a magic link that the OCI team developed that we use to send out to these folks, and they click on it, and that's it. We know exactly who they are. We know everything about them. They just provide their status update, and that's all they have to do. So that is day two. What I'm not showing you here is the back office application. Now, this is the customer-facing UI. There's an entire back office application that needs to be built to be able to see this information. For example, these symptoms right here, how are those modeled? The various different attributes here that I'll go into a little bit more detail. All of those things need to be modeled in a way that can be changed or added or removed later on. And that all happens in the back office app. So this is day two. Let's go on to day three. I have a screenshot of this application that we've built called Einstein. And it's an internal Q&A platform that many teams at Oracle use. It's used by about 96 different domain areas and has 29,000 users. And it actually started off on this internal Apex instance we have called Apex Oracle Corp, which is shared by 5,000 other workspaces. So that's where it started off. Now it lives on, on another environment, and it's accessible on the internet. We have like two-factor authentication, so you don't have to be on VPN to get into it. And this is the best place to go and, enter questions or enter feedback about something. So we created a domain called COVID-19 TLS for Therapeutic Learning System. And the reason why we did this is there's an army of people at Oracle that are working on this project. So it's not just the Apex team that's deeply involved in this. It's the entire OCI team, and it's the entire support team. And there's a channel in Slack with 300 people ready to test at a moment's notice. So on day three, we start testing this system. So again, the requirements are still coming in. The data model is still changing, but we're moving so fast, so we have to have people hammering at the system and start testing it as fast as we can. So we're in the Slack channel. We say, hey, go test this website, but if you want to provide your feedback, you're going to do it here. You're going to go to this Apex application, sign in, and then ask a question for every piece of feedback that you have, and you're going to tag it as such, and we'll be able to use it. And this is great because now we don't need to rely on something else. It's all hooked up, and the way we've built this application, we get Slack notifications, there's emails, there's all sorts of things built in. So here's yet another Apex application being used. Day 3, we also started running Apex Sec for security reviews. So we started doing security testing, we started building out more of the support application, and started doing actual, end user testing. Day 4, and this is the day that the article talks about. So this was the big day. There's a 2.5-hour meeting with Larry and several others where we didn't take a single note. Okay, so imagine this meeting, and there's a lot of feedback because the goal is to make this form as easy as possible to use, right? To make this application as easy as possible. So we should only ask what is absolutely critical. And we should make it so there's no ambiguity. Like every piece of, every field on this page should have an easy to understand label, inline help text. So you can see right here, I'm editing live this screen and I'm typing in these, this inline help text or labels, and nothing is magic here, right? It's like you've done this 1,000 times if you've built Apex applications. But what's surreal about this is that you're able to make these changes in front of these people and see their eyes light up, right? They see their changes happen in real time. And that's when they get empowered, right? It's not that, hey, somebody takes a bunch of notes and passes it down to another developer, and then the developer goes and actions them, and then they deploy, they compile something, and they push it up, and then they come back for another review meeting, right? It's none of that. You're doing this live. And the best part about this is the moment they have that power, right? These stakeholders, the people that your customers or your clients or your manager or your boss, whoever it is, the moment they see that you can make these changes immediately and have an impact on them, they're going to feel empowered to provide you more feedback, right? This might be a good thing, might be a bad thing, but generally they're more engaged. So right here, we're looking at the add patient screen. It's a fairly large screen. It's actually, this is not even the whole screen. And we're just at the top, top quarter of this screen. So we're really going step by step. And I think this is what, perfectly illustrated the power of Apex. The ability to immediately make changes in real time and run it and show your changes. So day 5, there's more data model changes happening. We're trying to figure out how do we model medications in a way that is useful for metrics gathering and also as painless as possible for physicians to enter into the system. We started to integrate the live chat service that Oracle has. So now you see this live chat little box that you can open up and talk to a support agent. And this is the first iteration where you had to type in your support ID and so on. If you notice, the color scheme of the application changed. So previously it was the default universal theme Vita look and feel. And during one of our meetings, we decided, hey, why don't we go with a Redwood look and feel, right? We have this new design language from Oracle. Let's apply that to this application. So here's the application as it looks now. Again, it's about 99% universal theme and just 1% of custom CSS. Very little custom CSS here. On the right side, I have the color palette pulled up for the Redwood UI. And on the far left, this page isn't built by our team, but there's another UX team that's helping with all the static content, the FAQs, the landing pages, and they started putting something very simple together just to show you, how you can get in. So this is what we have so far, day 5. One thing to note in the Apex application, at the very bottom, we have this thing called, built with heart using Oracle Apex. Now, you can add this to your own applications, right? There's a built-in setting to do this, and there's no way that I was going to have this application, go out without having something of Apex on there, right? I don't know if people are going to notice it or not, but I wanted to put it out there because I think it was proudly built with love using Oracle Apex. So it's at the very bottom. And I bring this up because I'm going to point back to it in a little bit. So this is day 5. Day 6. We have another design meeting. And this is with Larry and Safra and others. And today, the primary discussion is about the UI and color scheme, and about making it as easy as possible to use. So the previous UIs were based on, white screens, and there were comments and feedback about how it could be straining to the eye, right? If you're looking at it all day long, or if you're quite, if you're staring at the screen, then having a bright UI might be kind of difficult to look at all day. So we looked at oracle.com and other examples from the Redwood Design Library. And we thought, well, maybe we should go with a green inspired look and feel. So this is live during the meeting, and I'm playing with the colors to see what kind of works. And, there are executives on the other side telling me feedback like, oh, we should try this color and that color. And what's perfect about this is right here, this is not even an Apex screen, right? This is the landing page, completely static HTML. But the fact that it's the entryway into your Apex application, that it leads into your Apex app, it's only natural that this become part of the full experience, right? So I didn't develop this page, but if you know how to use the Chrome developer tools or any developer tools, what you can do is simply right-click on any component, inspect elements, and then start playing around with the styles. So that's what we did. So that's what I did. I just started playing around, picking colors on the oracle.com page that we had over here. So for example, I would pick like a green from here that, people thought was, good green, and I apply it. But those who know me know that I'm not really a fan of such a saturated color. So you can see the disappointment on my face when I wanted to do something like this. And then I had an idea. I thought, well, if the goal is to make the content stand out, now just look at my eyes here, right? You can just see that I have an idea in there somewhere. I thought, if the goal is to make the content stand out, right, and everything else recedes into the background, then why don't we look at what we've done with Apex? So this is the internal corporate website for Apex. It's apex.oraclecorp.com. And on this website, it's a very simple one-page website right now. It just kind of lets you get started, create your own workspace, or learn more about it on the public website. I loved pulling this up in that meeting and showing people, hey, do you mean something like this? Now, for those that aren't familiar, Apex Oracle Corp is the internal instance of Apex where any employee in the company can go and get their own free workspace. It's just like apex.oracle.com, except it's for internal use, and it's been approved for all the information classification levels. And it doesn't matter your title, your organization, your budget, your geography. Everyone in the company can go here, sign up, get a workspace, and be up and ready in just a few minutes. So when we started developing this application, right, we did the data modeling on apexoracle.com, but we started to build the application on this internal self-service platform. And the reason why we're able to build something so quickly is because we already had the infrastructure in place to start prototyping things, right? While the OCI team is, incredibly busy ramping up the new infrastructure for us to run this on for production, we are completely unhindered by this. We're able to go in and start building this application right away and proceed as if, there's no other dependency on us. So that's Apex, that Oracle Corp. Day 7. So day 6, we got the feedback that, hey, it should be dark mode, maybe go with the green. Day 7, we updated the entire UI from the landing pages to the home screen to the patient details to really every experience in this application for an end user. We updated to be based on this new darker redwood color palette. Now, if we talk about the number of Apex applications here and just what they do, here are the 3 primary Apex applications, right? There's the main application that you'd go and you'd add patients, you'd assign medication, you'd be able to go and perform actions on those patients. Then there's that patient update screen, which is what the actual patient would receive, right? So they'd get a link on their phone or on their email, they'd click on it and they'd go to a page. And then there's a registration flow for a physician to enroll in this system. So those are the three primary applications that end users see. And there's about, 50 plus pages. But that's not the whole story here, right? There's an entire fleet of applications. There's the back office administration application, right? This has 67 pages. This is going to be a simple interactive report dialogue page on every single table that we have, so that we can go and modify, whatever lookup tables we might have, or go and see what the data looks like. So any system that you build, typically you're going to have some kind of back office system. Now, there's also the support staff application. So this application is supported by Oracle, and there's a live chat, or there's a phone number you can call, a 1-800 number. And when you call them, well, that staff needs to have some insight into the person that's calling to be able to help them in a more effective manner. So we built out a special app just for the support staff, so they can only see what's relevant for their duties as support. There's another application to monitor the activity in this application, to see incoming requests. Are there pages being hit? Are there any errors being fired? And this is used by another team to monitor the well-being of this system. And finally, there's a dashboard application that shows you an aggregate dashboards and summaries on other information that's collected in this application. So there's a total of 7 applications, 200 pages. And again, this is just day 7, right? So let's look at this timeline again. Day 1, data modeling. Day 0, data modeling. Day 1, build the first app UI. Start building out the email templates. Start doing initial demos. Day 2, complete more of the application UI. Take into account more data model changes. While you're doing that, start building the registration app, the back office UI. And while all this is going on, I also recorded a couple of video demonstrations for other stakeholders. Day 3, we started running Apex Sec analysis, doing some security reviews, building out the support application. We have a team of 300 plus QA engineers to begin testing that application, and we're using Einstein to get all the issues that they file. On day 4, we have 9 applications developed. It's a few more than what I had mentioned, because some application we didn't actually need. There's QA feedback coming in. We're doing accessibility reviews to make sure that everything is accessible. And that's when we had that first big design review meeting. On day 5, we have additional design review meetings. We're going with the Redwood UI, which I showed. Additional design review meetings. We go to the dark mode. Day 7 through 11, we have even more UI meetings, even more refinements, even more testing, right? And what this goes to show you is, an application may start off in one way, right? We started off with something, but we're going to iterate and iterate and iterate until we get to where we want to go. And finally, on day 12, we went live. So here's the same information on a calendar. Now, right now, I'm strictly speaking in terms of the Apex development effort involved here. There's literally 1,000 people at Oracle that were involved in this project, right? The entire Apex team was pulled in to develop this application in various different areas. But there's an entire team that's dedicated to just QA. There's an entire support team. There's an entire infrastructure team and security team. All these different teams are coming together to help us deploy and launch this thing. So I took a couple of screenshots of me in various Zoom meetings, and I don't think I've ever been on more Zoom conferences or so many Slack channels in my life. And I've also learned that I'm not very good at WebEx, but that's another story. here's how the application started off. It was a blue look and feel based on the Vita theme style. And if you were to look at this, being an experienced Apex developer, you might say, hey, that looks like universal theme. And I don't say that in a bad way. I actually think it looks pretty elegant. But with a little bit of customization, we're able to get to something like this. Now, again, this is 95% universal theme and about 5% of custom CSS to make very targeted changes for exactly the look and feel that we wanted, right? And this is totally acceptable. If you're building an application, I totally expect you to fine tune it for that exact use case and use, custom CSS or, whatever other, maybe some third-party libraries to get exactly the functionality that you want. But you shouldn't have to do this for every component. And I don't think you will, because when you're using something like Apex, all this other stuff is taken care of for you. So I'd like to walk through just a few more screens. Here's the create account, create healthcare practitioner account screen. So again, this is where you'd go to sign up for that account in the first place. And I'm showing it to you on a tablet here. Once you've signed in and you're viewing all your patients, here's what that experience looks like. And on the left, this is a faceted search. Here's what the email looks like. And this is just a fairly basic email template. We're using the built-in email templates functionality in shared components. We customize this a little bit. And it even supports dark mode because your operating system will typically do that for you. It'll just invert the colors. And when it notices it's like a button color or something, it'll invert them, but not completely. So it'll still maintain the essence of that color. Here's what the patient update screen looks like. So what I'd like to do now is give you a brief demonstration of this application before I go into how this is possible. Okay. So here I am, I'm logged into the dev environment. And once I sign in, this is what the application looks like. Now I can click on add patient and I can see all the different fields here. You can see very standard components that we're using, right? Like these are all floating labels. Well, one thing that was interesting is when we were building this application, we wanted to provide height and weight and other, inputs that have a unit associated with them to work in, either the metric units or the ones we use in the States. So we have a toggle here, and this is really just a simple radio button adjacent to that other item, but we had to write a little bit of custom CSS to make them look together. Otherwise, there's other information here. This is all driven using dynamic action. So if I say this patient is an outpatient, hey, who's going to be providing those status updates? Does this patient have a caregiver? If they do, provide their information. Have they taken any COVID-19 tests? What's their symptom status? Are they on any kind of medication? And this is actually the third medication flow that we've had to build for this application. The first one was far too simple. The second was a little bit too complex. And this one was just in the right golden zone. And here we have all these, again, lookup-driven values here. So all of these things are in lookup tables. We can keep adding new pre-existing conditions or, current medication that you may be on, so that this can easily be extended later without having to rebuild the application or add new columns or anything like that. So that's the experience here. And now, if you look at the very bottom of the screen, you'll notice that the built with heart using Apex is no longer there. So I didn't think anybody would have noticed that little comment, but Larry did. So he noticed that comment. He said, hey, why don't you put the racetrack O and Apex on the bottom of every page? So I wasn't going to argue that. And Larry said, because people will be curious and they'll ask, what is this thing? And then they'll click on it and they'll be able to learn all about it. So on the entire therapeutic learning system, there's only one place where you mention Oracle, and that is this O Apex right here. So let's go back to the let's go back to the home page, actually. I want to walk you through just a few more flows before I get back into my presentation. One thing is, when you have a patient, I want to show you all the actions you can do for that patient to manage that patient's care. So here I have two patients. I have Albert Einstein and Marie Curie. I'm going to go into Einstein here, and you can see a number of, you see a lot of information here. First, you'll know this patient is an outpatient. They're overdue for a status update. And I can even send a reminder for them because they haven't provided one in a while. I can go and add that status update. You know, maybe that patient comes in, I can add it manually directly from the system right here. I can go and record a test result. I can manage their medication. I can admit this patient into a care facility. I can record their recovery, right? Maybe they don't need to take medication and they don't need to be in the system anymore. I can also record whether they are deceased or, you know, whether they passed away. Or I can even transfer them to another facility. Now, again, we are just developers here. So we're not domain experts in this space. So all of these actions were provided to us, or we built them on the guidance of experts that live this, you know, day to day. So here's all the information about this patient. It's a very simple Apex page. These are just, you know, value attribute pairs reports with the content block template to make it a super simple UI. These are buttons that have the display as link UI. This is just the simple button region with a previous button and a header and an edit button. So nothing here is you know, impossible for you to do. It's all basic Apex functionality. Here's the search my patient screen. And on the left, we have faceted search. And this is so powerful because here, not only can I see all the different facets, but I can see the counts of these as well. So if I want to see how many patients haven't provided an update or are overdue for an update, I just check that box and I see exactly who I'm trying to find. So now let me show you the patient experience. I get an email. In fact, let me see if I can pull that up really quick. Okay. So I'll get an email that looks something like this. It says, hey, your doctor signed you up to keep track of, you know, how you're doing with this treatment. You know, click here to add your daily status. And when you click on that link, you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. And here, all you have to do is tell us how you're feeling compared to yesterday and what symptoms you have. And this entire UI is designed to be responsive, right? Again, the whole idea is that you can do this from anywhere. There's no login, nothing. So I'm going to say, I feel better. And for symptoms, if you had a fever, you can even provide your highest temperature. But I'm going to say, you know, Einstein doesn't have any symptoms. So let's go and provide the daily status update. And that's it. If I come back into the physician's experience, if I refresh, hey, Einstein is no longer pending a status update. If I click on my patients, I can see that he just recently updated his status. I can go and see 16 seconds ago, he's doing pretty well. So that's the patient experience and the physician's experience. Okay. So I'd like to spend just a few minutes talking about what made this possible, right? Well, first, let's go back 21 years, because that's where it all really started. This is the line, the first line of code in Apex. This is in flow.sql. And Mike wrote this in 1999, right? 18 years ago, we started running htmldb.oracle.com, htmldb.oraclecorp.com. Now, this is Apex before it was called Apex. It was called HTMLDB. And funny enough, you can actually still go to htmldb.oracle.com and it'll resolve to apex.oracle.com. So the DNS still works. We started running these services. And I say we loosely because I clearly wasn't in the picture at that time, right? I don't know where I was. But what's cool is the same exact system, the same service that we've been running for all this time is still relevant today. We use both of these to build this system 18 years later. 8 years ago, this is October 2012, October 15, 2012, Apex 4.2 was released. And I put this specifically because This was a monumental release for Apex at the time. It was the first kind of responsive design focused release. You can finally build applications for these different devices. We had this grid layout. Even the Apex website was responsive. In fact, it was the first responsive website at all of Oracle. I remember going to Kscope and hovering over the sign up button, and it would have like a glow. And I think the audience really liked it. And that's when you could tell that, hey, you know, we can start to take design and UI a whole lot more serious. And 5 years ago, to this day, so 5 years to today, is when Apex 5.0 was released. And Apex 5 was a game changer, right? And what we're doing today would not have been possible without some of the enhancements and investment that we made in Apex for this release. So Page Designer, right? Without having Page Designer, imagine having to go back and forth between all those pages to make those changes. I think any demo, people would say, wow, this is going to take a long time. It's still faster than manually coding it, but Page Designer just like blew things away. Universal theme. I think that's probably the most salient feature of Apex 5, because that's what really changes people's perceptions of what you can build with Apex. And we use almost all of these features to build what we did. 3 years ago, December 21st, 2016, we released Apex 5.1, right? And there's features in here that are so vital to the building of this application. So all these jet charts, critically important. Interactive grid is used to manage the data, the lookup tables in the back office applications. All the universal theme enhancements, you know, we're not using right to left right now, but if we wanted to go make this application available for right to left languages, well, hey, all we have to do is just translate the application. That stuff comes in for us. 2 years ago, right? Apex 18.2. Application features. So without this release and without the ability to build these applications with this new create application wizard and the blueprints feature, there's no way that we could have built that back office application with 67 pages in, you know, just a few days, right? We'd have to go and manually build all those pages. And we did this in what, maybe 30 seconds. And just last year, right? Apex 19 and 19.1, 19.2. So 19.1 had dark mode for the builder UI. And it was incredible just showing that off to you know, people in this meeting, people just being blown away by what Apex is capable of doing. But 19.2, that's really where the killer functionality came in for some of this application is faceted search, which is a key part of managing all your patients. And the dark mode available in universal theme. If it wasn't for that, and that was a painstakingly hard effort, that was a very difficult effort to do that, there's no way we could have built that dark mode UI. Dark mode is really, really difficult to do and to do it right. So that takes me to today. Today is, well, yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of Apex 5. And today is Apex at home. And I think it's such an incredible way to kick off the 5-year anniversary of this monumental release than to have 24 hours of back-to-back Apex content when we're all kind of stuck at home anyway. The last thing I want to talk about is what hasn't changed. So Apex has, you know, transformed quite a bit. This is the mission of Oracle. It's to help people see data in new ways, discover insights, and unlock endless possibilities. And I think you'll find that it applies directly to Apex. Apex is all about helping you see the data that you have, to make sense of that data, and to unlock the potential of that data, right? By building these applications without having to become an expert. So what is Apex? Apex is the platform that lets you focus on solving the problem and delivering solutions. You don't have to worry about anything else. And that's it. Thank you.